evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the East Bridgewater Planning Board for Monday, December 4th, 2023. Present and acting on matters before the board this evening, we have Diane Phillips, Rachel Tedesco, Roy Gardner, and myself, Kevin Riley. Somewhat a limited agenda tonight. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for two prior meetings, November 6 and November 20. Assuming members have had an opportunity to review them, and unless there are comments or questions, Chair would entertain a motion to waive the reading and to accept them in the form presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gardner, a second.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Ms. Tedesco. Further discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Record will show that that was a unanimous vote of all members present. We have no subdivision matters this evening. We have no Form A matters or public hearings, other forms of public hearing. So we'll move right down to those items listed under Section C on the agenda. First one is Thatcher Street Overlay District. You'll recall that we received a draft of a proposed overlay for the area on Thatcher Street from Attorney Burke.
Yes.
We had comments which were relayed to Attorney Burke at the, I believe, the November 6th meeting. He provided an updated version of the proposal. And I think in the meantime, comments had come in from Deputy Chief Windsor and also from Patrick in the building office. So I think those still need to be incorporated into the final draft. So my suggestion would be that that matter goes on to the next agenda, and we'll have a final draft ready for approval. And the idea again being that that goes to the annual town meeting in the spring.
Yes.
For approval.
Okay.
Questions or other thoughts? Yes, Rachel?
I just want to make sure that the LLC names are correct in the final document.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll double check
We'll
that,
double
but
check that.
as Attorney Burke had prepared them, I presume they will be correct.
Okay.
Let's just make sure what we have. East Thatcher Street LLC and West Thatcher Street LLC, spelled out.
Yes, okay,
So, yeah,
that's good.
okay.
And other than that, I think that's fine.
Okay, as I say, there are a couple more comments that want to be integrated into there, and then we should be good to go.
Good.
The next item, C2 on the agenda, the signing on the Sully's Lane road bond. Roy, I know you had updated the numbers last time based on the updated figures from John Haynes on materials and costs and such, and I thought that that had been ready to,
So we actually did vote that,
I thought we might have, yeah.
but what I asked the office to do is to check with the treasurer's office, which has changed since the last time we asked to modify a road bond,
Okay.
and confirm what format they want to receive that
West.
request
Okay.
in. And the last I knew, that was still ongoing between our office and the treasurer's office. I think, as everyone probably knows, that the treasurer has changed multiple times in the past 3 or 4 years, so we need to supply the treasurer with whatever form and content they think they need to be able to release those monies. Because in this particular case, in Sully's Lane, they're actually holding a cash bond.
Uh-huh.
So they have an itemized numbered account with $40-some-odd thousand in it right now. And we did vote last week, I believe, to lower that amount to $10,000.
Yeah, I see that, yeah.
So I don't think we as a board need to do anything further than that, other than confirm what kind of release letter or whatever you want to call that the treasurer wants to get from us.
Okay.
I saw two forms of it, one of which was a fairly simple form with a sort of an Excel look to it that I thought was probably the easiest one, simply to say that, here's what the account number is, and hold this much, release this much. signed planning board. So if that's appropriate, then whatever. I mean, either of us, I'm sure, can sign that when it's made available, so, okay. Speaking of those, there are apparently a number of accounts that I see that with various balances, some large, some smaller, that have kind of, are still held by the town that perhaps need some release, but I think that the problem on those is going to be that they are old enough that perhaps owners and such are a little bit difficult to locate.
I think the remaining ones that are still on the list, we've had little success in trying to find the owners, in part because a bunch of those owners are LLCs or realty trusts and things like that,
Oh,
which have been liquidated.
that makes it tough, yeah.
Some of them actually date back to the late 80s, when a lot of the developers walked away and didn't finish things. So I think about a year ago, we asked town council for some advice as to what to do with those. There's been multiple different discussions between the planning board and the DPW director about, and including town council, as to what we can do with those monies. There hasn't been any firm agreement made. Do some more research on several of those. Early 1900s and late 1800s, the road bonds are more difficult than that,
Oh,
because who an LLC or a real estate trust is after those have been liquidated and no longer on the Secretary of State's records as current entities becomes very, very difficult to do. But I'll continue to try and follow up with those. And what I have already made is I've taken that spreadsheet that we got from the treasurer's office,
yeah,
added a couple of columns to it, and started tracking down as best I can. I haven't got very far, but as best I can, who the actual owners are. Because in some cases, the treasurer's office doesn't even have who the actual owners are.
wow.
They just have an assigned road bond account with a name and a number and money.
So where are these historic records that you
The treasurer's,
researched?
all of those road bonds accounts on that list are in the treasurer's office.
In the treasurer's office, okay.
Perhaps failing all else, a planning board soiree could be in order?
So, when I worked downstairs in the treasurer collector's office and we were trying to clean up some of these accounts, they advertise it in the newspaper and they send out forms to the people so that the people can sign them, send them back and get and receive their money. I don't know if that's been done with some of these accounts yet.
I think the problem is we're not sure who sends stuff to.
No, advertise it in the paper and then they'll reach out to us. That's how they did it when I was down there.
I guess we could try doing that, but then we'd have to use the name on the account that we've been unable to track to begin with, but maybe somebody's gonna, I don't see a good way to determine how someone's gonna verify that that's really their account, especially with the age of some of them.
Oh,
But I'm gonna add some additional fields to that with some, hopefully some planning board side information, to see if we can, in which, we're trying to do better with new accounts and make sure that whatever the name the new account is put under, we have the name of the principal in that account.
okay,
So this is money owed to them,
yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
yeah?
Yep.
And it's just sitting there, we're
It's
just
surety,
holding
it's
it.
surety money that,
Yeah,
in some cases, we have potential claim to it, but because things weren't finished. The problem with that is under state law, we're not allowed to lay claim to it until we notify the owner we're gonna take it.
Oh, so if you don't know the owner,
So it's kind of a
It's
catch-22.
just a circle, as they
yeah,
say.
Yeah.
yeah.
I get it, yeah.
So we are working on that.
So that'll be something that we can just leave on the items being followed, and we'll see what progress can be made. I can certainly do some of that with you, Roy, you know, take a few of them and see what I can find through the different sources as well, so. Okay, so moving on then, I don't know how much discussion C4 needs, various decisions of the board. I think that, consistent with what you had written in an email earlier, or last week, I guess, I think that the practice would be that a Form A plan can be signed either by chairman or vice chairman, as has been voted by the board. Subdivision plans should be signed by members who voted for them. Other decisions, covenants, releases, and so forth should be signed by, again, a majority of the board with a notarized signature. And I think, and then just certificates of action would be signed by either the chairman or the vice chairman, I would think.
Yeah, and I don't believe, based on past practice, that the certificate of actions need to be notarized. They're just signed by the chairman and vice chairman.
That's just a notice to the town
The
clerk.
formal
It's not-
documents that get recorded under subdivision control all require a majority of the board's signature as well as confirmation by the town clerk.
Madam Clerk, any comments there? Yes.
So, we were talking specifically about the covenant, right? Before, and I'm not sure if you just talked about that as well, when you were saying what should be notarized and not notarized. And the issue that we may have, so the notarization has to be in front of me. So when somebody signs it, to be able to notarize it, I have to witness you signing it.
So is that everyone's signature on the document, or just?
So it depends. If you, I had provided a couple of different examples of how other communities do the signature. I technically, and I brought them with me tonight, so I'll hand them out to you guys. Technically, you can all sign it, and then you can have a representative be the one that gets it notarized. And the wording is there on 2 different towns, how they handle it. I've highlighted it.
Thank you.
But I would need to have that exact wording on the covenant when it's brought to me to be notarized. Because I can't notarize anything that I'm not witnessing the signature of.
Okay. So the majority of the board could sign it, and then in the notarization side,
Any member.
one
who
of
was
the
not
members of
any
the board
member. Yeah, and that would you be.
signs it in your presence?
Yep.
Okay, okay.
That seems like the easiest.
Yeah, it felt like the easiest. I had all the other examples, but that seemed like the easiest.
Yeah.
I did provide Candy with a copy. If you guys decide which one you want to use, she can just add that to the bottom going forward, and
Okay.
we won't have any issues.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay,
That works.
Yeah, thank you, Katie.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
As of right now, we, the planning board, aren't taking any specific action on those 3 streets that I talked to you about 4 or 5 days ago?
Yes, yep. You're not taking any specific action.
Not right now, because I've kind of left that in the hands of John Haynes. He thinks, given the information I've passed on to him, he's comfortable adding those into the public ways list on his end. Now, the other question I had, and I asked you when you were going to look into it, is in the 1850 to 1860, give or take, when the state adopted the state law that said communities in Massachusetts need to come up with an official list of streets.
Yes, yep.
I know we did that, and from my past memory, it was somewhere in the range of 60-some-odd streets, give or take. You said you think you can put your hands on,
I've been researching it. I've done well with 2 of the 3. The third is posing a large issue because when it was accepted, it was excluded. The section of street was excluded from the accepted street in 1860. And I've talked to, back then, the county commissioners were who would tell the town that they needed to bring their roads up. So you'd call in the county commissioners, they would come down, they would usually meet informally at a person's house, and they'd survey it, and they'd say, yeah, you do need to widen the street to make it official. And then they would go back, and then it could become accepted. In one of the streets, surprisingly, I can't find where they did that. So I've now contacted the county commissioner's office. We spoke about it. Their historian that might be able to help me is on vacation till next week, but they no longer do that part of the process and haven't for decades.
That stopped back in the 50s, actually.
Yeah, and so she said, I'm gonna have you, in the meantime, talk to the Registry of Deeds. That's who I'm gonna speak with tomorrow, I guess, because I've now done a little bit more research, and I'm not having very good luck. So there is one street that we may have an issue with out of the three.
Okay.
The other two, I seem to have found the votes. And so all I have to do on my end for an accepted street is I have to make sure that the town voted to accept it.
Yep.
That looked a lot different in the 1800s than it does today, but unfortunately it was done. So it was a little messier. So I am trying to figure that out, because a lot of times the county commissioners would come down and say, this is not a safe street, you need to fix it, which is how two of the streets 100% got created. They did exactly what you said, which is they realized that bend was causing more accidents and it was dangerous to the citizens. So the county commissioners came down and said, straighten it. And I can prove that it was accepted crooked. I can prove that it was accepted straightened in just one street. So, but I'll find out. And like I said, I'll definitely have a very good answer for you that you'll be able to feel very comfortable with when the research is all done. But I did have the lady at the county commissioner's office say, is this what a town clerk does? And I said, I guess. I'm doing it. So hopefully.
Okay. All right, thanks, Keith.
You're welcome.
You'll learn, Katie, I think over the years that, whenever there's a town question that nobody knows anything about, it always goes to the town clerk. That's the
I love it, so I'm not gonna say anything. I really enjoy the research, but boy, you did throw me a curveball.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
No problem.
Okay, so on other items being followed, the zoning map, Roy, do you want to get into that tonight? Or, I mean, we do have, I guess, a preliminary version of that.
I think so far, from what I can see on it, it looks good. I wanted to talk to the assessor. I wanted to talk to Kathy Wolf to see if, Paula Wolf, I'm sorry, Paula Wolf.
Oh, the town assessor.
To see if
town
we can see
assessor's Paula.
an actual GIS electronic copy of that before we do that.
Okay.
Because it is going into the GIS system, and it's being done by CAI, who does assessors maps. If anyone have used the current version of the assessors maps, which changed within the last year or two to CAI, you can now go online and blow up that the map, and just keep clicking on plus and plus, and it'll make it so your whole lot fills the whole screen.
Oh, great.
So what I'd like to be able to do is see the zoning map that they're working on, so I can take those areas in town that we know are very sensitive because of the size or the shape of the zoning area, and see what they look like when you blow them up, and try and get an idea that the dimensions shown on the zoning map are actually correct, which would be, I believe, would be fairly easy to do on the CIA version of that, where you can go in and actually, you can put it on, the bigger the screen it's on, the better you can see it, obviously.
That's for
but
sure, yeah.
The map itself that they've sent us looks very good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's definitely covered all of the areas that I can think of.
Well, I noticed last time that the lakes and ponds were actually, in there and clear, as opposed to the other map where it was just.
Well, I think that's because they're overlaying that on top of the assessors maps, which also have all of that information already
Yeah,
on it.
so it makes it really
Yeah.
very, very
It's
clear.
a highly integrated mapping system
Ah,
that we're gonna end up with. Because before, the assessors map was a separate map from the zoning map,
okay,
which was a, now that the assessors map has been converted, that put all of that stuff on it, hopefully, I believe what they're doing, this is an oversimplified view of it, I guess, but they're simply adding an overlay layer to add in the zoning districts to the existing map.
okay,
Yeah, I mean, it's handy to be able to pick and choose what you want in terms of the information that's shown on the map, be it, assessors designations or zoning
well,
designations, addresses and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
I will talk to Paula, I think she was out at least part of this week. I'll check in again tomorrow, because I have to come in tomorrow for a little bit. And if she's there, I'll talk to her about that. But from my understanding, when we talked about it at the track meeting, we will be able to do that.
good.
So this blue zoning is going to be zoned as what?
Industrial?
Industrial?
Well, it already is. Everything on that
This
is
the
the current,
existing
is the
zoning.
existing zoning as it
Yeah.
sits right now.
Okay, so any changes would be changing the map out?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Any changes that we do come up with, and we will come up with something, potentially at annual town meeting, at least a couple of things. Maybe for the MBTA districts, a special town meeting in the fall.
okay,
I hadn't
good.
seen anything that speaks to either the district in the overlap, center, or the North Bedford Street sewer overlay district. I couldn't, have you been able to click onto that on the site? Because obviously it doesn't appear in the legend here.
Well, it's not there yet, because we haven't adopted the zoning change for it yet.
Wasn't the North Bedford Street district wasn't it? No? Okay.
Oh, because that's got to go to town meeting.
Oh,
The map was adopted by the town in terms of where the sewer is going to go, but we haven't adopted any zoning change yet to cover what can go there other than what's currently there. We haven't changed any zoning associated with it.
All right.
so
I'm
this
ahead of
is,
myself.
this is the sewage from Brockton, the sewage treatment connection,
Right, that's coming in at the north end of town.
right, I remember, I was at that meeting.
At the
yeah.
south end of town, and I say we because the planning board had input to it, but when the sewer study group was together, we put together maps for both downtown and the district on Bedford Street, which would be the area that would be currently defined as the area that we want to see served by the sewer system. The town system here in downtown and the shared system that we're going to be, paying Brockton to utilize part of their capacity.
Right, right,
So those areas are defined. Those maps are on file with the sewer commissioners, which are the selectmen.
okay,
They're also on file with the DPW.
okay,
But there's nothing on either one of the
Here,
town
okay.
maps right now,
Okay.
either the assessors map or the zoning map, that reflect those, because technically that's not zoning.
okay,
Now, a good part of both of those districts are gonna end up on, if the MBTA zoning districts are adopted by the town, a good part of those districts would be within those two sewer districts. Like, both of them would be within those two sewer districts.
so that would allow for the higher density housing and,
Theoretically, yes.
theoretically, right. Okay,
Okay, other questions or comments at this point on the zoning map? Again, we'll continue to follow that. D2, Spring Street. Boy, I know you've done some research there,
Okay, so
based on the The last time, I think that the matter came up, there had been a discussion about the fact that there had been existing permits, special permits that had been granted to that premises over the course of time, and I think you've got some update on that.
Yeah, so the primary reason that this is on for discussion tonight is that the building commissioner, wearing his hat as the zoning enforcement officer, has asked the planning board to generate a letter to him, asking him to enforce the conditions of the existing special permit. So for quick history, I made copies of, there's lots of other documents and letters and building inspectors' comments and so on and so forth over the history of this, but the initial special permit for that site was issued on July 25th, 1983. And that was then issued to Michael Chapin, who was at that point in time expanding a business where he made small buildings, garden sheds, some of the buildings are actually pretty big these days, but he made them in a prefab, somewhat of a prefab form. It took him to your site and put them up on your site. Now, the current business, I'm not sure who the owner is, it may still be Chapin, but is now located on Route 18 in Whitman. But in any case, in 1983, he was granted a special permit. Given the physical location of this, which is directly abutting an R3 property in which there's a condo building, there were conditions put on that special permit. Those initial 6 conditions are listed in that copy of the special permit that's dated July 25th, 1983, which we have a copy of. That's the first page of that handout that I gave out. The next thing that happened is Chapin needed to move because he needed to further expand. So a gentleman by the David Rodriguez came to the building inspector and asked if he could run his automobile detailing business from that site. So he came to the planning board based on direction from the building inspector at that point to get a modification to the special permit. Those modifications listed in the next 2 pages, or the last 2 pages of the handout, if you will. And one of the things I'll note that it says at the very beginning of this, the special permit has been granted to the above-named applicant for the property identified above. It remains in effect as a permanent statement of conditions for the use of the property. So note that it was granted to the applicant for the property. Okay, it's not for an individual person, but for the property.
Right.
It remains in effect as a permanent statement of conditions for use of the property. Now, if we look at those conditions have almost identical conditions to Mr. Chapin's original special permit with a slight modification to the hours of operation.
Oh, yeah, 8 to 6.
Since Mr. Rodriguez was going to be doing a substantial portion, if not all of his work, inside the buildings in the site and not outside. So he's going to have very limited, if any, stuff outside other than the few cars that he was working on for his detail business. Now, according to the
Well,
records,
was the intention there that that was gonna be a complementary business to Chapin, or it was going to supersede Chapin altogether?
it was going to supersede Chapin,
So
and he was,
moving his operation at
Chapin
that
was
time.
moving, selling the property to Rodriguez was moving it. Now, my understanding from the historical record in the file and my own recollection is that he was there for close to 2 decades. And from what I understand, there was very few, if any, complaints of his business.
Okay.
In 2003, a company by the name of Miller Environmental entered a purchase and sale agreement to potentially purchase the property. They wrote a letter, which is in the file, to the building inspector in 2003,
Okay.
asking if their business would fit that site. Now, Miller Environmental was a company that did specialty septic system work, primarily for commercial locations. But they had what I would call fairly high-end equipment, most of which gets buried in the ground, stored on that site. They and the building inspector both agreed that everything they would do materials would come in and out of there weekdays within the hours of the existing special permit. There'd be no actual work done on that site, other than coming in, moving the materials to off-site, where all of their work is done off-site. They were there for some 17 or 18 years, until the current owner purchased the property. Now, there's no record in the building inspector's file that the current owner ever came to the building inspector and inquired about the limitations of the special permit, especially the limitations on things on the site related to car-type businesses. So it's fairly clear from those special permits that a car business or any kind of repair, any kind of unlicensed motor vehicles, so on and so forth, are not allowed on that site. We already know from the letter that we got from, I believe it's Sergeant Grillo from the police department, there's multiple vehicles on that site without registrations or clear owner documentation. So the building inspector, I believe, at least conceptually agrees with us that the current use as it is right now would require a new special permit, but has requested that we issue a letter to him asking him to enforce the current special permit, which would give him the leverage needed to tell the existing owner that, number one, we need a new special permit. Number two, we need a in-detail summary of everything that you want to do there,
Yeah.
including how many vehicles you expect to have there, why they're there, since they're not allowed under the current permit.
Right.
Yeah.
If they're an integral part of his doing business, how long would they be there? I mean, I know how the business works. I've had a vehicle that was towed to a tow yard. I know how they work. It happened to be right across the street from my house at Paul Wolf Motors. They have a fenced-in area. They keep the vehicle long enough for the insurance company to make a decision as to what they're gonna do with it. Then the vehicle leaves to either get repaired by someone, depending on whether they're gonna pay to get it repaired, or the vehicle gets totaled and then shipped off to a junkyard. So, if he could set up the business so that when he tows a vehicle, he brings it in through one gate on the property, which isn't there right now, because one side of the property is open to the street. If he could bring it in, now, he wants to run a 24/7 business there. If he could do that so that the backup alarms on his equipment don't need to be used when he tows a vehicle in.
Yeah, that would be really, that would
That's
be tough for,
disturbing.
yeah, residential area.
Potentially, we could approve a special permit and keep all noise-generating things within the 8 to 5 or, 9 to 5 hours of operation weekdays. But he'd have to be willing to live with that as part of the special permit, provided that a majority of the board, at least 5 members, supermajority actually, of the board would be willing to do that. But in any case, he has a right to apply for a special permit, but
Okay.
it has to have the details of what he's gonna do, how he's gonna do it, where he's gonna park vehicles, and so on and so forth. As it currently reads in the zoning bylaw, I don't believe what he's doing is an allowed use.
Yeah.
So it would have to have a special permit. And I think the building commissioner, acting as the building inspector, has said that it clearly doesn't fit into the conditions of the existing special permit. So,
Would you deem it a situation where there can be a special permit allowed use granted, or is it a specifically prohibited use in the district? Because I lean more toward that it's a specifically prohibited use.
I would agree that it's a question for debate. It's right on the line, in my opinion.
I think, just for reference purposes, you're talking about, what is it, 5?
And this is with residential properties next to it.
Directly abutting it, yes.
Yeah,
It's like a 6-unit condo building.
yeah.
There's like 6 residential units that look right into that piece of property, out that back door.
Yeah, that's where they,
That's why the constraints
yes.
of the original permit
Yeah.
were what they are.
Yeah,
So, just for reference, I believe that is an industrial zoned district, so that is under section 5K. And we're talking about, if you read through sections 1, 2, and 3, I commend you to your own conclusions as to whether it falls on one side of the line or the other. But that would be something that would be subject to further discussion and such. So, based on what Mr. Gardner is indicating, it would seem that a motion to direct a letter to the building commissioner asking him to enforce the terms of the existing special permit and be generated, and that will allow him to undertake whatever discussions he needs to have with the owner and any investigation that he needs to do in terms of whether there is in fact a zoning violation there at this point. So, Chair would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Mr. Gardner makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Phillips. Further discussion on that, the referral to the building commissioner. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, and opposed, unanimous vote of the board. D4, past due taxes bylaw. I don't think there's any update on that at this point. Still,
Not yet, but the plan will be to have something available at the latest by January, which we could then reserve a space on the annual town meeting,
Yes.
which I believe will be, although I just saw the town clerk's proposed schedule that she has generated based on input from the selectmen, and I think it was in early April, if I read it correctly, which had all the timelines for the various things that go in, so.
I haven't seen that.
I'll make sure,
Okay.
I don't know where I saw that, I gotta check again, I might have seen it at the town clerk's office while I was
Yeah.
doing something else. But I'll make sure we get a copy to the office so that can get sent out to everyone,
Okay.
so that we all have the timelines for upcoming annual town meeting.
Yeah.
There's a series of timelines, they want preliminary information as to what articles we're gonna need, i.e. how many articles, what the subject will be. A second date is to when they have the original draft of the article. The last one is the deadline for the final version of the article to get into the warrant. And then there's the actual date for town meeting. Now, from that, we have to back off our timeline for our public hearings for zoning changes,
Okay.
because we have to have a public hearing for any zoning change.
Okay. So that our meeting has to come before the annual town meeting?
Yes.
I see.
Because zoning changes are supposed to have, number one, a hearing at the planning board,
Okay.
and number two, a recommendation from the planning board regarding the zoning change that's presented at town meeting.
Right.
Now, there's some other dynamics that can potentially come into play there, but normally we wouldn't worry about those.
Okay.
D5, the master plan. I know that since the representatives of the OCPC were here in early November, there has gone out the community survey. You may have received one. I know I did via email. So I encourage folks who might be watching, if you have not completed that, to try to do so, giving your thoughts on the current conditions of the town and ideas for, what needs to be improved in the way of, kind of quality of life / zoning issues. I believe also that those, if you need a paper copy, they are available at the public library and at least at the Council on Aging as well. So I think the plan was, as I recall, that once the responses have been received and correlated, that then this series of public meetings would be undertaken after the first of the year with respect to further comment and discussion on implementation of the master plan.
I know it was recommended to share it with friends, so to
Yep.
get more input. So hopefully people, if they share it, that would be a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's it on there? Is it on our EB?
It is also, it should be on the EB website, yeah.
Website
Yeah,
or
town
the-
website, yeah.
Okay.
So,
I thought it was a really comprehensive survey that looked at all aspects of life in Eastbridge, not just fire and the safety, but the streets.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
and-
think
Yeah.
it was well done, I thought. And I think that, certainly there can be some good follow-up, and hopefully from that will come, when was the last one done, Roy? The last master plan? He's laughing.
1987.
1987, okay, so might be time for,
Hey, it might be time for a new one,
think
yes.
a couple of things have
Yeah.
changed probably over that time, I
I
would
think
guesstimate.
commonly, aren't master plans done like every 25 years, something like that? Or-
Oh, so we're not that far off.
10
The
to
the
15,
suggestion at the
is it?
state level is that you update it every 10 years.
10 years, oh, so we're way out of date.
So we were honestly hoping that prior to last year's annual town meeting, several months prior to last year's annual town meeting, we were given an okay to hire a planner, so we were hoping that we would have a planner who we could then assign that as one of his duties or her duties. As it turns out, the amount of monies that were approved as potential salary for a planner were well outside the range of anyone who really qualified as a planner was going to accept. So that didn't go anywhere, so it hasn't necessarily, we do, as a town our size, we do need a planner. We're one of the few towns of our size in Massachusetts that doesn't have a planner.
Yeah.
The amount of things that need to get done to support the planning board, the zoning board, and the other inferential pieces that come from Board of Health and from Conservation, fairly substantial.
When I worked for the city of Brockton, I think we had maybe 4 or 5 professional planners in the office and a secretary.
Yeah.
So, yes.
A need, no doubt, but that's for people above our pay grade.
Yes.
Last item on the agenda, or last item on the printed agenda, is the MBTA Communities zoning, and again, I don't think there's any particular update on that, other than that after the first of the year, I think that the board will initiate some hearings, some public comment and information sessions that would start that process in a little more earnest fashion.
So I did actually fill out a form online at one of the state departments that's handling some of these applications. It was hard to tell exactly where it was going because it was a bunch of links that started off under the MBTA Communities byline, but I answered a bunch of questions and provided a copy of the North District map that we've got from OCPC
Okay.
to try and see if that map would meet what they want to see. I did note on it that it's an area that is been currently approved and funded for municipal sewerage.
Right.
I did note that the plan would be to make a formal attempt to get the Brockton Area Transit to expand their bus route so it would cover that area.
Good.
Because it's a very short hop from there to the 2 different stations in Brockton. It could go to either one, I guess, that they're almost equidistant based on my read of the bigger map, but, so I put all of that stuff, answered all their questions as best I could, added all of that information, put a copy of the map, which they asked to see, and hit send, so
Okay.
I did get a confirmation that it was sent.
Oh, good.
So I haven't heard anything back yet. That was 7 or 8 days ago now.
Great.
I'm planning on doing the same thing for the downtown area. But I wanted to get some more information on that I was able to get on the other area first, before I do that, so. it was suggested the way this inquiry pages were set up that it's probably a good idea to do this first to make sure that the area that you're gonna then take to the town to get rezoned is gonna meet the requirements that we have, is basically what it said.
Yeah.
In terms of acreage and,
Yeah.
yeah,
Rather than go ahead and rezone it and then have it come back and say, no, that doesn't meet our requirement.
right.
Yeah,
See that.
oh, that's
So we'll see what I get back and when I get it
okay.
back, but,
hopefully soon.
yeah. And I'm still finalizing the count of all of the individual pieces of land within those areas to get an exact acreage, or as exact as you can get by adding up all the assessors' records for those. It looks like that from acreage, it does meet the requirement, but
But maybe not all the land is buildable, or
it's
you
really
don't know.
hard to read into the many, many pages of requirements as to how that all factors in.
Aha, yeah,
I mean, we could theoretically build something like the 40B project that's at the intersection of 106, where it crosses at the traffic light in West Bridgewater. That's 48 units. And it's on only like 2.5 acres. Now, the area is much bigger than that, but half of it's wetland.
yeah,
But that would still qualify
Wow.
theoretically as 15 units per acre, even if that area was 6 acres.
So that's right by the old Wright's greenhouse? Is that the one you're referring to? 106
Is
and,
that-
Yeah, on the other side of the street.
yes, yeah. Gotcha, oh, yeah,
Just before the golf course.
yeah.
yeah, I was thinking
yeah.
golf, near the golf
Yeah.
course, yep.
So I would expect in a lot of communities like ours, where a lot of the land that hasn't been developed yet is wetlands. I don't want to say dominated, but it has wetlands on it,
Yeah,
that a building like that, and I think a building like that would meet what we would be willing to put into our zoning bylaw for the north section.
so if we could find a parcel that's solid and
There's
dry
clearly, yeah, there's
enough, you
clearly
could-
multiple parcels in there that could fit into.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we'll just have to keep moving forward and do the best we can with it.
Good. I look forward to seeing what you submitted. I think that could be really, really interesting, yeah.
And then lastly, tonight, is the 2024 meeting schedule. I just wanted to bring that back to the surface here. So last meeting, I believe, I was not here, you guys approved a calendar for meetings, and there appears that there are problems with several of the dates in terms of room availability. Specifically, the January meetings, which were pushed back a week to the 2nd and 4th Mondays of the month, and then the, I believe the same thing same thing with respect to is it the March and April ones, Candy, as well? Yeah. So, at least in terms of January, I think there's a little bit of an urgency to sort of set a schedule for those meetings. So the reason we were changing out was because of the holidays on Monday, the 1st, and Monday, the 15th. So question would be whether we wanted to try to go to the days following, that being the 2nd and the 16th, on Tuesdays, which I think are available, if I'm interpreting the correspondence correctly, or to the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, which would be the 9th and the 23rd, which might be a little bit more in keeping with what had already been voted, just postponing those meetings for one day to the Tuesday instead of the Monday.
Okay,
Tuesdays are usually really good.
Tuesdays work
Your
for me.
thoughts on that?
Well, part of the problem is I don't believe Sherry's available on Tuesday nights.
And, we did ask Board of Selectmen, and they said that the room's available Thursdays, so so I'm not sure if Thursdays would work better for anybody. But if Thursdays came about, Sherry possibly could be available.
Educational Thursday. So you might-
What day?
Thursdays are usually.
Well, at this point, unless you wanted to, were the February meetings also an issue, Candy? I see that I've got a handwritten, a form with some handwritten notes on it that suggests that the 12th and the 26th, which would be the second and fourth Tuesdays of, Mondays rather, of February also would be impacted here, so is that what was voted, or was it,
I wasn't here for the last meeting.
I'm just curious,
I don't know if we voted it. I know school vacation weeks are kind of tough. Like those, the 19th, that week, that whole week is bad.
I mean, I think the problem was in the first 4 months of the year, January, Feb, March, and April. I think that's kind of where the issues lie, just because of the number of holidays that coincided with, meetings. So,
I don't have a
I
copy.
will say that I don't have a problem with any of the dates being retired.
Yeah.
Yes, the original copy I have still has first and third of every month. First and third of every
yeah,
month.
I mean, was this what was voted, though? Was it in fact voted to move the Monday meetings to the 8th and the 22nd?
I don't see the, we
Last
did
meeting.
vote on something, but I don't see that, if this is last month's,
Right, was that what
Yeah.
was voted?
no,
No.
because I don't believe so, because this was what I had last month.
So if the second one is what was voted, then with the changed dates to the second and fourth, then that's a problem.
I don't know how we got to the second and fourth. We've known for a long time that the second and fourth Mondays belong to conservation.
Oh. Huh.
So could we do January 2nd? Is that available?
I believe so.
So
That's a
those are-
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Sherry can't make Tuesdays.
Oh,
Oh.
that's right. So how's Thursdays for people on those?
We'd have to send something out to find out, so.
Okay, that would work for me.
And I guess the other thing that's in question is, we had changed our second meeting in December to next week. And that also becomes an issue for the same reason. We were trying to avoid a conflict with the function here in the room
Which is
on our
Concom.
regular meeting date, which would be the third Monday of the month. So I'm not certain that there's enough on the agenda that we have to concern ourselves with the,
Okay.
with the meeting again this month. So that we could simply cancel that last meeting of the year. Would be a prorated reduction in salary, so, I mean, that's just one of the things we have to
Okay.
absorb.
I accept.
But no, all kidding aside, I think that the ones that are of the most concern at the moment are the January meetings, just to pin those down so we can get the room reserved
Yeah.
for whatever day and make sure we have some continuity here and not have a lengthy gap.
So I would just suggest that the office send an email out and ask of Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday evenings, what nights you could be available and put the dates down.
Okay.
So
Maybe
if-
just Wednesday and Thursday, because Sherry's already said she has meetings Tuesday nights
Tuesday,
in
yeah,
Holliston, which is where she's working right now.
Right,
so, yeah,
So probably just Wednesday night and Thursday night.
okay.
okay.
And we probably should ask for maybe both the first and second meeting nights of, so that'd be January 3rd, 4th, and January 17th and 18th.
Okay.
Those would be the two
January
nights.
3rd and 4th, Could you repeat that?
Well, so, I mean, just among us here, so that we
Yeah.
maybe can simplify the process, I mean, what's the preference, Wednesday or Thursday? Do you have a preference?
January 3rd would be my preference,
That's a Wednesday.
yeah, for that month, yeah.
So the Wednesdays, the first and third Wednesdays of January?
I cannot do Wednesdays, the third Wednesday. We have the committee meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, I could do the first, but I cannot do the third. We both can't do the third.
So the first might be enough, because we don't have any pending applications before us right now. And a pending application has to go through a 3-week prep process to get to the legal ad before we set a hearing date, so
oh, okay.
it can't make, I don't think it can even make the first meeting in January at this point.
So let's then say that we'll, if everybody, is everybody available on January 3? Yes? Yes?
Yes?
Yes,
So let's move the first meeting of the month, let's post that for January 3rd at 7 PM. And then we'll see from there where we go for the rest of January and then beyond.
okay.
All right, so our next meeting then would be scheduled for 1/3 at 7 PM.
Okay,
Absent any,
Do we need to book the room?
that's what, we'll have the office
Yeah.
do that, yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, for the rest of the year, will we lose our opportunities if
Well,
we?
Well, I
need,
think-
well, the rest of the year, I think we're okay, because the rest of the year is pretty much the way it is, once we get outside January.
Okay.
Okay,
All right,
We get 1 or 2 legal holidays for the next 4 or 5 months.
yeah.
We have summer hours. If we need to have an extra meeting because of the workload we have, we can always schedule
yep,
an extra meeting.
okay, gotcha.
My suggestion was, originally, is simply book the room for every first and third Monday for all 12 months.
yeah.
Mm.
Then we have
And then-
priority,
Yeah,
Other than this year in January, but
Yeah.
right. As long
So
as it doesn't
let's-
run into a holiday,
first of all, we got to make sure the room is available that Wednesday night,
yeah,
yeah,
okay,
because this room is used by a lot of different boards on a regular monthly rotating basis.
yeah,
Concom has it second and fourth Mondays. There's a bunch of other boards that meet. ZBA meets here at least once a month. I'm not sure what night, do you know what night ZBA meets?
I think it's the first Wednesday of the month.
oh,
Oh, yeah, ZBA, I think, is the first Wednesday of the month.
oh, so that might conflict with,
So let's tentatively say we'll meet the first Wednesday, and we'll have to get that confirmed with,
Dorothy.
can everybody here meet the first Thursday?
yes,
I can,
yeah. I
Can you do
meet
that,
the first-
Kevin? So why don't we see if Wednesday's available, we'll take Wednesday. If Wednesday's not available, we'll take Thursday if it's available. If not, we'll have to figure something out.
Yeah,
Sounds like a plan.
okay.
Okay. So then, just let us know via email just what that meeting will be, either 3 or 4 of January. Okay.
okay.
Anything else to come before the board this evening? Hearing none, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gardner, a second.
I'll second that,
Seconded by Ms. Tedesco, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Unanimous vote. Meeting is adjourned at 8:02.
Great.
Okay.